going to call the meeting to order, and I'm going to ask the Zoning Board of Appeals members to, Julie, could you go back to the group? No, this is fine. I'm going to ask the zoning.
I can. There.
Okay, I'm going to ask the ZBA members to identify themselves, starting on Nanette Falkenberg, chair.
Karen Copta, member.
Bill Davies, member.
Nancy Schoenholtz, member.
Margaret Minor, member.
Steve?
Steve Meyer. I think I'm an alternate.
Yeah.
No.
So Margaret is joining us, but a bit under the weather. So Margaret, you still prefer to not be seated tonight, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so we have members, we need 5. We have Nanette, Karen, Bill, Nancy. So Steve, I'm gonna move Steve Meyer up. Julie?
Okay.
As a voting member tonight. And I don't know what that makes Margaret's status, but she's not seated tonight.
That's okay. You can say it like that.
Okay. So just to briefly, for our applicants, just to go briefly through the process, we have 2 public hearings tonight. So we will have the 2 public hearings, and then we will either close or continue each of the public hearings. Then we'll go from the public hearing to the regular meeting, and we'll discuss in the same order the 2 applications. And then we have some other ZBA business to discuss. So I will just, the first public hearing is Ann Fenton and Jeffrey Sharp, Assessors Map 31, Lot 008, located at 1055 Washington Woodbury Road. Case file 2021-0085, variance to construct an 8x16 addition off the west side of the existing dwelling, reference zoning regulation variance from 3.10.4. I'm going to ask Julie to read the legal notice into the record.
Okay. Legal notice was posted as 1, and so legal notice was posted on the town of Roxbury on November 4th. It was also posted in published in Voices on November 3rd and 2021 and November 10th. So Roxbury Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on Thursday, November 18th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. on Zoom to consider the applications of Ann Fenton and Jeffrey Sharp, Assessors Map 31, Lot 008, located at 1055 Washington Woodbury Road, case file 2021-0085, variance to construct an 8-foot by 16-foot addition off the west side of the existing dwelling. Reference zoning regulation variance from 3.10.4.
Okay, well, now we've got that in twice. Okay, thanks, Julie. I shouldn't have bothered to read it. Okay, so we have the legal notice on the record. Julie, can you confirm the receipt of certified mailings?
Yes.
Okay, to the abutters. All right. So Ann and Jeffrey, welcome. Which one of you is going to present?
I will.
Okay, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks for hearing us tonight. So we are very familiar with the zoning regulations regarding non-conforming structures, and we very much understand the position of the zoning board on the whole when it comes to non-conforming structures. We are interested in taking advantage of the provision for dwellings like ours to have a 25% of the square footage addition. The variance we're asking for is to put that addition on the west side of the house instead of the rear. The reason that we're asking for this is, in addition to having a house that's entirely within the setback, we also have a house that's entirely within a wetlands area. And after really thinking it over, we feel that the disruption to the wetlands area would be pretty significant if we were to do an addition off the back. And we also feel that it would create a hardship to even try to do construction back there because of the steep topography down to the Sprain Brook, which is about 30 feet behind our house. So our request is to put the addition, as we said, on the west side of the house, which at present, I think the setback is, the front of the house is only about 3 feet from the property line. This addition would be somewhat set back from that. So that's what we're asking for. Again, we understand the rationale of why it ideally would be on the back, and in a different circumstance, that's what we would do. But we think, given the fact that we are so close to the stream, we can't really imagine that wetlands would approve it, and we don't really think it's a good idea. We've seen how high that stream can get and are really eager to extend our house closer to that body of water.
Okay. I'm going to open it to questions from board members.
Yes, what is the purpose of what you're going to be doing?
We would like to add an entryway onto the house. I mean, as you can see, it's a very small house. I think at one time the entrance would have been on the front. It was moved at some point to the side of the house, I think because the state highway had been built and the property line had been established so close to the front of the house. So it's not an ideal setup to have, you know, a door that basically opens into your refrigerator. So our hope is to add a pretty modestly sized entryway that would then also extend to the second floor and give us a little bit more space for bedrooms on the second floor.
The great one, I bought my own self and spent some money on. I can have two.
What's the current square footage of the house?
It's 1,200 square feet.
Okay. And the addition size, you'd say it was 16 by?
16 by 18, which I think is 128.
8 by 16.
8 by 16. So I think it's 128 square feet. Yes, 128 square feet.
Julie,
Yes.
we lost your picture. Can you put up some of the photos?
Yes.
That's not too complicated.
There we go. So there's the front. I don't know if that's a side. So let me just move some of you around so I can actually get to my little toggle.
So this photo that we're looking at right now, that's where your addition would be?
Yes, so we're basically looking to fill in, it's essentially like a gravel area that slopes down from the parking. So it would just really be filling in that gravel area with a structure. The structure would go up almost to that parking.
Can you go back to, can you show us this one?
Yes. Absolutely.
So, and so what we're looking at right now, that would be, that the window would be, the downstairs window would be covered by your addition as well as the door?
So what the architect we're working with has proposed is actually that the entryway itself, I think, would be 5 feet by, no. He's proposing to make a 5 foot by 8 foot little porch that would, so there would be a roof covering that window, but that part of the wall would still be exposed. And the actual mud room would be, I guess it would be 13 feet sort of long, extending back to that little deck area that you see. So that window would remain, and he's proposing just essentially like a little tiny covered porch there that would then lead into a mud room.
But
On the
then-
upstairs, though, it would, that those both windows would be like, that whole wall would be pushed out, and those two windows would be in the new wall.
So are you going further into the setback?
We're not coming closer to the road, no.
Well,
The whole house is in the setback, right? That's,
The whole
right.
house is in the
Right.
setback.
The whole
Yeah.
house is, I just didn't know if you were reducing the space between the road and the house.
The house is, how far is the house from the road? Just about like 5 feet or so?
Yeah, they're about.
I had one question on that. What is the present drainage from the road? Where does that go and how does that impact these gravel areas?
Jeff is really an expert on drainage. Is it okay if I turn that over to him?
Sure.
Sure. So first of all, it's pervious pavers, which is the parking area. So that's gonna drain. In other words, it's not an impervious surface. It's gonna allow more runoff. It does make it onto the parking area to then enter the wetlands area than would normally be the case if it was just landing on soil. There's also a French drain on the front of the house. That goes by a number of different terms, but there's gravel with some perforated pipe in it, and that helps move water away from the house. There's another French drain that's uphill of the parking area too. So we're managing runoff, I think, quite effectively as is. Certainly with an additional structure in place, we've already thought about how we would manage additional runoff.
But that is part of the reason, in addition to a number of things, we feel that having on the back of the house would create a problem, because you'd have 128 feet of additional roofing that's, essentially 10 feet from the stream. So the opportunity to divert that water is just that much less, having it closer to the stream. So that we feel pretty confident that putting additional roofing on this side of the house, there's, based on what we already have in place, that we can keep the water out of the stream. Whereas I just think going off the back it'd be challenging. There just wouldn't be a lot of places to send the water other than just straight back into the Springbrook.
Just one question. How long have you owned the house?
About 5.5 years.
Have you taken this to wetlands?
No, I spoke to John Cody about it, and he said, they're open and we'll talk it through, but anything we do will have to get wetlands approval. And, just in talking to him, it seemed that we would be better off coming up with a proposal where we already felt confident that we could account for how to divert the water, whereas one where we're really not sure how we would do it if it were off the back of the house. I actually talked to him originally. We did, of course, because of the way the zoning's written, we did talk to a couple architects about adding to the back of the house. I think part of what changed our mind was just engaging with architects and sort of getting their view on why it wouldn't be advisable to build off the back, given the terrain and the proximity to the stream. And then during Ida, we saw the river come up to a level we had never seen before. And we just feel that that's probably going to happen more frequently as time goes on. And I think that changed our perspective a little bit about, how far it would make sense to build.
Okay. So Julie,
Yes.
could you pull up the picture that shows the proximity to the road?
Yes.
There it is.
Right.
what year is the house built?
1850 is what's, I think, officially noted.
Okay.
So this might be a good time for me to just put your request for variance into context. So the 25% exception is an exception to 3.1, 3.10.4. So in other words, if the governing regulation is the nonconformity clause. And because there have been some recent court decisions that have made it much more difficult for us to grant a variance, what the zoning board decided to do was to create the 25% to the back of the house exception. But it is an exception to 3.10.4. So you're going to back up into the request for variance is ultimately, in my understanding, we're going to have to make a decision based on the original clause, which is, I'll just read it into the record. No nonconforming building devoted to a conforming use shall be enlarged, extended, reconstructed, or structurally altered on the exterior, except where the results of such change is to reduce or eliminate the nonconformity. So because of that, the zoning board created this exception for the back of the house. I don't see how we can give you an exception to the exception without backing right back up into the original clause. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have, but I think that we're really going to have to make this decision based on 3.10.4. I don't know if any other.
Well,
yeah.
I'm wondering about hardship. I mean, we have a hardship in the back where the hardship is obviously wetlands. So we can't, they would be granted the 25% without any question, because I think it looks like maybe 15%. So I think we have to look at that as something to consider, that they would be granted the variance, except for the fact that we have wetlands, steep terrain, and a major stream in the back. So we obviously can't, there's no feasible way for them to build on the back of the house. So I think we have to look at that. So as a possible hardship with topography and other things in place.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should at least discuss it.
Yep.
I know what you know. Okay.
I had one further question, if I may. Are there any easements because of the road which affect the property belonging to the state?
Not on the state highway. There is an easement that runs through the property, an Eversource easement, but that's well out of the range of what we're talking about here.
Thank you.
Do you have a current drawing of the addition in the house? I'm not seeing it.
We do. I don't know if it's in the packet. There it is.
There it is.
I'm not seeing it. I got my iPad now. So. Okay.
So what, so where is the addition, where is the proposed addition?
So there's two different views. Well, there's three different views here. One is sort of looking as if you were looking down from above.
Bill, can you see it?
Yeah, now I can see it. Yep.
Okay.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead, Ann.
The one that says north elevation, if you can imagine, if you were standing in Route 47 looking at the house, the line that's just sort of on one side, there's just white. That's sort of where the house ends now. What you're seeing,
I see.
slightly shaded, is what the addition would be.
Mm-hmm.
And then the west elevation is just looking as if, I mean, the other piece of this, which we didn't capture in photographs that we probably should have, is in addition to the non-conforming house, we also have a non-conforming barn. That this space where the driveway is, you know, it's, I don't know, how wide would you say the whole space is between the house and barn? Maybe 25 feet? Oh, okay. Different estimates. But so we also have a barn that is even closer to the road that's probably about 40 feet long. So the whole property is highly non-conforming, which we recognize. It's you know, was not built in these times. But I guess we totally, well, we didn't have the context of realizing that the zoning board had added that clause in order to sort of preempt issues that might come up because of some of the court cases. And we did up a little bit on, I think, the case that you're referencing, just so we could better understand what the state Supreme Court had said. So we hadn't realized that that provision had been added to sort of anticipate requests for variances, and that certainly makes sense. But yes, I guess, I don't know if this perspective is relevant, but I think part of our view is because you have a 40-foot structure that is right along the roadside. Okay, Jeff says it's not relevant.
Just to be clear, so the west elevation that you're looking at, the picture that was up before, I think that's the best sort of rendering of what we're proposing, that how that would, the one that was up during a lot of the discussion, the initial one, I think that gives the best, maybe one before that. Right, so that's the west elevation. So the architectural drawing is showing how there would be the 8-foot by 16-foot structure added on there.
Are there any more questions?
So 16 feet is the depth of your house.
The footprint of the existing house is 20 foot by 30 foot. So depth of the house, 2 feet on either side. And we would follow the line, but we wouldn't pull the roof exactly out. It would also be sort of stepped down. And I think that's visible in the architectural renderings if you look carefully at it.
Oh, Julie, can you show the architectural renderings again?
Yes.
That in my package, so bear with me, please. That, yeah, I mean, oh, now I see. Okay. So in effect, your addition is 2 feet further away from the road.
Yes.
In from the road.
Yes.
Okay. Then it's 2 feet further in than your original house.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
So you'll have 2 rooms that are 8 by 16. Is that correct? It's 2 stories.
If you look at the bottom left of the drawing, that would be the ground floor. So you can see that the foyer is that would be the ground floor, and then upstairs is a little bit kind of harder to make sense of, but basically it's just pushing out the existing bedroom, which is right now a very long, skinny room, 8 by 20. So it's basically taking that out 8 feet.
Okay.
And I thought I remembered reading in the report, in the application, that will create a 3rd bedroom.
Right.
That would be our hope, that with like the additional square footage, that it could be bisected into sort of one room that would be on the, I guess, the north side of the house, and one room on the south side, both relatively small.
And we've received tentative approval from the Newtown Health District about that change.
Oh, good. Okay.
And I think to Mr. Davies' earlier point, the most relevant question here is whether we've established a hardship. We believe that there's a hardship imposed by the topography and the wetlands on the rear of the house, which prevents us from using the zoning regulations to create an addition, a 25% addition to this footprint of an existing non-conforming structure. The hardship on the rear of the house is what we're asking the zoning board to approve here. So is there anything other questions that we can clarify on that point?
Well, You haven't spoken to inland
Our
wetlands.
understanding is wetlands wants ZBA to, weigh in on this first.
Right, and then wetlands, I think, well, the questions that they will raise, but they would still have the option then they could still not approve it based on some of the issues that Steve was raising or other issues related to the wetlands, regardless of even if we approve it.
We understand.
Yeah. Okay. Other questions? Margaret, do you have Sue or Margaret, do you have any questions?
No, I think it's pretty clear.
Margaret, not really, no. No, I don't.
Okay. So,
One more quick question. Do we have a picture of the back of the house, the stream, the topography back there?
Mhm.
That's not totally easy to see, but you can see the back of the house down to that little landing. And then it's about as steep a drop off to probably steeper since Ida that.
That's actually the water there.
Yeah, that's the water at the bottom.
I had
We
a
had a lot of
question.
erosion during the storm, and it's actually a much steeper drop off now to the brook than it was before.
What is that? What is on the top of the stairs? Is that a deck?
That's a deck. Mhm.
Have you looked into building on that?
We have, yeah. One of the ideas we talked to the architect about, a couple issues with it. One, the footing for the deck is not, I think it's on pier blocks.
Yeah,
right?
it's a pure footing versus any addition that we would need to do would require a slab foundation. So, the engineering would be much more disruptive, environmentally speaking, and possibly just not pragmatic given the location and the topography.
What's the size of the deck?
It's pretty long and skinny. So I want to say up to the top of the stair, I think is 4 feet off the house. I think the length of the deck is 30 feet. It's the full length of the house. I think it's 4 by 30.
It's a very small footprint.
Thank you.
okay. I need a motion to close the public hearing. Unless there's a reason to continue, and if anyone sees a reason to continue.
No, I will move to close the public hearing.
Okay, is there a
Second.
second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Steve makes the motion and Bill seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so you're welcome to hang around until we get to the point in the regular meeting when we discuss it. At that point, you're not able to speak, but you're able to listen to the discussion.
Okay.
Well, thank you for your time.
Good luck.
Our pleasure.
Good luck.
So I'm going to open the second public hearing, and Julie, I'm going to ask you to read the legal notice.
Okay.
Can we go back to our full screen? Or is that something different? Oh, all right.
I'll go back there in a second. This is still our legal notice that was published on the town website on November 4th, 2021. It was published in the Voices on November 3rd, 2021, and on November 10th, 2021. Roxbury Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on Thursday, November 18th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. on Zoom to consider the application of Charles P. Jackson, Assessor's Map 23, Lot 38, located at 177 East Flag Swamp Road, case file 2021-0086. variance to reduce 50-foot setback to 25 feet for new single-family dwelling and reference zoning regulation variance from 5.1.2.
Thank you, Julie. And can you confirm the receipt of the certified mailings
Yes,
to the
I can.
abutters? And just to double check, did we got receipt from the state of Connecticut that they had received the notice? Is that right?
No, there are no more green cards are required. All is required is the receipt that it was mailed, and it was mailed.
Oh, okay. So we don't require green cards anymore.
No.
Oh, okay.
It was
All right. There you go.
that was a Gale change.
Oh, that was a Gale change. Okay, so so you have receipt that you have confirmation that they were mailed.
They were mailed, and we have barcodes to look at U.S. Postal Service that they were received. So
Okay,
they were
great.
in fact mailed.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Jackson.
Hi, good evening. This lot has varying topography. It has some very steep topography, and it has one area that's reasonable topography, and that is just downgrade from an unusual rear property line where it comes in at an angle, comes in sort of a 90-degree V, and that every time I try to lay out a house, I end up either down the hill too much into steep terrain or over to the north, basically into steep terrain. And so I'm looking for a variance off that rear setback line so that I can work in land that's, a good place to build. And it goes from about a 9% grade in that area to 18 and 20% grades. And the setback also pushes the project closer to the wetlands. So it's a sort of a double whammy where it's, more disturbance and closer to the wetlands. There was a previous plan, I don't know if Julie can bring that up. There was an engineered plan on the property that came with the property basically. And it's kind of what I don't want to do, which is a house that's stuffed into the hill. It has a 12-foot cut behind it, quite a lot of disturbance, and is actually closer to the wetlands. It's legal. It meets the wetland setbacks. When I showed it to John Cody, he hated it a lot. I hate it a lot. So I'm trying to, be gentle with the land and do what makes a good sound project to generate a site on the property that's not going to be troublesome to build or troublesome in the long run, where it generates a lot of runoff that goes into the wetlands. So
Is this the one you're referring to?
that's actually, no, let's go. No, it's the one with the Fred Damico site plan. Let's start with that. That's the original that's the subdivision. It's lot, I guess it's 3 there. And you can see where the rear property line is a V. It's not a straight line across there. The property in the back that makes the V is state of Connecticut. It's a big piece of farm conservation land. It's upgrade from the property. But that V is incidental when they, it was just the way the parcels worked out. It probably could have been a better job at the time they subdivided it to plan it so that, there was more room if lot 2 had been configured differently. Lot 2 has been abandoned. You can see a driveway going through lot 2 that goes to the house on lot 1. So basically I don't think they could get a decent driveway into lot 1 because of topography. So they did a long traverse through lot 2 and ate lot 2 with the driveway. They then put an easement on lot 3, which is on that Fred Damico plan, to try and get to a house site on lot 2. But that easement has been abandoned also. So So why don't we go to the Fred Damico plan now? And I think that'll be, okay, so there's Flag Swamp Road. And the dark black thing is the house. And you can see the driveway comes in off the road and makes a Y and heads over to lot 2. That was the easement. That is now gone. Thank you, Julie. So the driveway goes straight up, and then the house is pushed into the steep contours. You can see how close the contour lines are over there. And you can see in the back that it's got a 12-foot cut, and then down by the where the drive under garage is, it's got a 6 to 8 foot cut. So this is, this is pretty brutal on the land. If you look down below the house, go down past the septic, and the land gets more reasonable, then it turns into the wetlands. You can see the wetlands flagging down close to the road. The wetlands goes all along the road. It actually goes off the property, but it's still down there where the driveway comes off Flag Swamp Road. So what I'm trying to do is get to the area, you can see where the V comes in, and I drew the setback line on there. The line in the back, the dotted line right off the rear property line is the setback. So what it does is it pushes it down into, either pushes you over toward where that proposed house was, or it pushes you down, down into closer to the wetlands and into worse terrain, which is not really shown here because I think because there's so many, when they put the 2 driveways in, they changed the contour lines down there. So, so I'm trying to get closer to that pin, and I'm showing the, with a 25-foot setback instead of a 50-foot setback. And I guess the next thing to show would be my photos. Yeah, and so let's see if this is the first one. Yeah, I'm gonna have to, I can't see, it's not showing the tape at this point. There we go. Okay, so this is, that surveyor's tape is level, and it goes over to that pin. It's actually tied to that pin and then tied to a tree. That's better. Thank you, Julie. So you can see the stake where the pin is. So that actually is that V in the property right there. So I set that tape level. My truck is parked in a level spot that was on the lot that is actually an old charcoaler's platform. There are 3 charcoaler's platforms. There's one up in the conservation property, and there's one up in the basically northwest corner of the lot. So anyway, so that's how that got there, how my truck is sitting in a level spot. That was actually man-made back in the charcoaling days. So this is a pretty reasonable grade. It's about 9, I think it's 9 point something percent. And then the next photo shows what happens if you go downhill. Okay, so there's the truck sitting just as it was in the other photo in that old charcoal's platform. And you can see that that tape is shorter, but you can see how much higher it is up the tree. I think that grade came in at about 20%. So I'm trying to stay uphill and work in that existing platform area and not be pushed down. So the 50-foot setback would be about 4 feet off my truck. So it would push the house down and off that steep slope. So, and then the next photo shows what would happen if you went basically north. So what you're looking at right now is where that house would be on the Damico plan. It crammed into that steep slope. Same problem. You're getting into very unworkable grades. You're going to be dealing with cuts and fills that are going to be a problem forever. If you look down, you can see the driveway. I put in the driveway and did a long switchback and kept the grades very reasonable on the driveway so there wouldn't be a runoff problem toward the wetlands with the driveway. I put in a detention pond. That was all approved by wetlands, the extension of the driveway. But down below that little bit of driveway you can see is where the wetlands are. So as you go in that direction, you're now doing all this cutting and filling and all that stuff, and you're now upgrade from the wetlands, and you have the risk of overloading whatever drainage is there and putting runoff in the wetlands. So those are kind of the choices. The next plan we ought to show, I guess, is the site plan I drew for wetlands. Yeah, the top one, Julie.
Okay, let me get that back up so we can see it a little bit better.
Okay, so you can see this was 4 wetlands for the driveway extension I did. It was an existing driveway into about where the switchback is now. They never actually built the driveway. They went straight up to the house. At some point, they put in a driveway and just stopped and chewed up the lot a lot. The lot was cleared at one point and just sort of left. And there were places where it was dug. There were places where they buried blasted rock in what's now the driveway. So I put in that driveway to the platform, which is about where it ends now. And then to do the house, once I start doing the house, you can see that right now the 50-foot setback is drawn on there up toward the pin. You can see that V, a piece of that V property line up there. And that pushes it down the hill. So now I've got a drive under garage again. And up in there where I've got the turnaround area, I'm doing 6 and 8 foot cuts again. So this is, this was sort of my best effort with it. If that house can slide to the left as we're viewing it, it just gets the whole turnaround area and platform of the house over into more reasonable terrain. And that I think that's just a win-win all around. So that's essentially what I'm trying to do.
So the 25 feet where you're reducing the setback, the neighboring property is now which lot? I'm sorry, I'm a little
The neighboring
confused.
property is, okay, as you're looking at this, yeah, Julie, you put that on the V. There we go. So that is the back property line. And so that line, so you're not seeing part of the property line. It makes that funny tail up there where it's sort of cut off. And we can go back to the,
So it's neighboring which, but it's neighboring which
the
lot?
property I'm trying to get closer to is the state of Connecticut Conservation.
Okay.
Okay, so now you can see, and you can see, so it was sort of cut off as we were looking at it before. That little triangle up there was sort of cut off, the triangle to the southeast. So the lot 2 was abandoned and actually consolidated into lot 1.
Right.
So I'm not impacting them. And the sideline setback is still the sideline setback. They're protected by that anyway. So who I'm going closer to is the state of Connecticut
And so that's
conservation
conserved property. I'm just trying to think, nobody's going to build a house on that other property, is that?
No, that's in perpetuity. If it were if it were a private property, I would have tried to do a property swap and straighten out that back line.
Right.
That's
Okay.
absolutely not available because it's state of Connecticut conservation.
Okay.
And they do that. I don't think they can do that even if they were, if they wanted to, basically.
Okay.
So any other questions on the?
Yeah, have you considered, I think I saw on your application, Charles, that the house you want to build is 9,000 plus square feet?
No, not at all.
It did say that somewhere.
Yeah, it did say,
wow.
so 9, yeah, what?
No, it's about 2,100 square feet.
Oh, well,
No,
I wonder what that 9,000 is.
I remember reading that myself.
Yeah.
Where is it?
My question to you is,
yes,
still is, have you considered, since nothing exists, it's a new building, considered building something that fits better on the property as is without having a variance?
well, basically, a 2,100 square foot house is about, it's pretty minimal. But it's the house plus the turnaround area of the driveway, plus room to grade and room to make a platform for the house that gets you up to a fair amount of disturbance. So I'm not asking for, I'm not, if I wrote that and then I was asleep or something, but it was never a 9,000 foot house proposed.
Should we I mean, that seems to me, when I was looking at this, it seemed like that was kind of a big missing link to me, like where, what is the house that we're talking about that you're planning to build?
Why don't we go back to my site plan then, and we can, that'll be the best place to discuss house sizes.
Well, I think that, okay, but I think it should be in your application somewhere, I think. But anyway, let's talk about it.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a 2,100 square foot house footprint, and a typical turnaround area, 25 feet by 40 feet, and then room to move cars around. So it's not, I'm not asking for anything that's extraordinary. And what happens is if you reduce that back line to 25 feet, I would actually, at that point, it would give me the room to turn the house and put the house more parallel to the contours, because I'm not forced off the deep end, so to speak. So if the house can go up gradient, then you can slide over and be under that pin, and get more room to work in the reasonable grades. So whatever size it is, the platform of the house and the turnaround area and everything that goes with it, decks or patios or whatever, will be way more workable if it gets another 25 feet. And I obviously in a perfect world, I would have shot for 50, but I thought 25 was a reasonable number, because otherwise I think the people sooner or later are going to encroach on the state of Connecticut land, just because it's 25 feet away is too close, basically. So I thought 25 feet was a good compromise that gets the house, up and into those better grades without making it, so that it's going to be something where people are going to be, trampling over the state of Connecticut land sooner or later.
Charlie, how big is the
No
lot?
way to regrade there's no way to regrade the land to accommodate the house. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, any way you slice it, once you start regrading, which you will do. I mean, a house demands a somewhat level platform. I mean, I know there are houses in ski areas that have, escalators and elevators or whatever, but without something that's ridiculously extraordinary, a house, kind of demands a fairly level platform. And up toward that pin is where the grades are the most reasonable. And I think, that's why the charcoalers put their platform there. That was where they, hand leveled a 24-foot circle, basically, to burn charcoal on. So that's kind of, kind of what is, in my opinion, reasonable terrain to work in, as opposed to something that's severe. And, I've built a fair number of houses, and I built houses on really steep, and you always end up with some compromise ultimately with the quality of the site for people forever, and with the quality of the environmental quality of it, as far as generating a lot of runoff. Also, right now where that turnaround is on this plan, you're getting over into the big trees that I show in that one picture. There's a beautiful double oak over there. It's got that. But there, I'm trying to preserve resources on the site too, not just make it easy. So we can go. It was the last picture, the third picture. Yeah, that one. So that is, right now, that turnaround would actually go into those double trees, those big double oak, the double oak there. And you are going to generate, an 8-foot cut over there, best case. And then if you wanted to, do it reasonably, you end up resloping the land, you end up going back even more. And that's putting you in an area where essentially you're over the wetlands. You're putting your disturbance during construction and your ultimate living area in a place where you're going to get more runoff, that's going to head toward the wetlands. And obviously there's drainage that can theoretically solve that. But we're living in a time of the 100-year storm of the week. So I'm thinking, there's something to be said for heading away from areas that, demand extraordinary drainage to keep out of trouble.
Charlie, how big's the lot?
The lot is 3 acres, 3.06, I think.
Okay. And what about the lot next door? As you said, they're abandoned right now, the lots next door?
Yeah, the lot 2 has been abandoned and consolidated into lot 1.
And there's a house on lot 1. Correct?
Yes, there is a house on lot 1. Yes, that's been there for years.
And then lot 2 is basically the driveway going to the house.
Right, the driveway to the current house on lot 1 cuts through lot 2.
Okay.
That's steep grade too, up the hill.
That's why they did that. Yeah, this subdivision, was done in '86, I believe, and it was basically before the town required that people come in and show, grading and feasibility issues. So it's kind of an older, naive subdivision in that sense, where they kind of drew it out on the plan and didn't really pay that much attention to the contours and let everybody sort it out later. And that's why lot 2 got abandoned and why I'm here talking to you. So
Yeah, I drove that road, and I was I'm not familiar with that neighborhood, hadn't been before, but what I noticed was that all the houses were, tucked in to the ledge.
mhm.
I mean, that whole neighborhood was, is ledge and trees.
Yeah, it's a steep valley basically. So, and nowadays I think it would be a tougher sell, for a lot. I mean, the lot 2 never had, in my opinion, viable access to the property and without or I should say lot 1 never had viable access. That's why they ate lot 2. So it's kind of in the final measure a subdivision that didn't really work all that well. So I'm here trying to asking for a setback easement of the easing of the setback to make this lot a better place to build basically. And
I'm sorry, is there anything on lot 4?
lot 4, yes, yeah, there's a house on lot, let's see, we can go back to the subdivision map. I'll refresh my memory.
Julie, you're doing great.
Just trying to.
Yes, lot 4 has a house that's shown. Yeah, as shown. That's that's accurate where that was actually.
And how long have you had the lot?
I bought it in, let's see, 2019, I think, June of 2019.
And in terms of not building in the envelope which would be provided, obviously you're saying that it would cost more, and the aesthetics you feel would be less in terms
Yeah, I think
of,
there's this.
well, like a ski house kind of thing, or?
Yeah, aesthetics, quality of life, and environmental in the sense of, protecting the wetlands and, resources on the property. I mean, I can go in there with some really big machinery and make a big old flat spot right in the steep slopes. And when you're all done, you have something that looks like a gravel pit and accelerates, drain water from heavy storms, and has a tight, crummy driveway. So it's really a quality of finished product, I think is my biggest argument. I don't think the zoning regulations were put in place to make you do a crummy job on a lot, basically. So that's and where here we have a lot that was subdivided naive of topography. I think my hardship is topography, and also that V corner does strange things when you add, when you take a rear line setback and put it on an angle like that, it starts pushing you sideways. It also, eats more than it normally would have it with a straight line, because now you've got 2 sides that are, and that one, it probably doesn't matter because the sideline setback would probably, eat most of that little triangle, and it's not workable anyway. But it just, some of it's personal. That pin annoys me. I've tried to work myself around that pin. And it's just, it's personal with that pin at this point. Because I can't make a plan that I'm happy with and stay 50 feet off that pin. So, and happy with in the sense of, of doing what I feel is a good job on the lot. So.
Other
I
questions?
just want to clarify, I'm just looking at your something, your unique ID, and it says, Charlie, that you bought the property in 2020, not 2019.
Yeah, okay, they made my mistake about that. It probably maybe it was 2020.
And and there's nothing that tells us anywhere in your application except for this 9,000 square feet that I can't seem to find at the moment, that what you're planning to build.
The 9,000 square feet is
It's under lot and building sizes on the front page.
It says proposed building coverage 9532.
That's coverage. That includes driveway. So that's the coverage ratio number, not the footprint of the house. So that includes driveway, turnaround, decks, patios. So that's basically the zoning coverage calculation. So it's total driveway, total patios, decks, and house footprint.
How long is the driveway?
The driveway is about 300 feet currently.
Okay.
And it would pretty much would terminate about where it is now. It would have to, duck down and around. Pretty much the site plan I did, would work, but again, it's just getting into a lot of big excavating, so.
And you haven't been to wetlands, is that right?
I have been to wetlands. Yeah, they approved it. The plan you saw was approved by wetlands as a non-regulated use.
Okay.
They approved it for purposes of the driveway extension. So it is not approved as, that house. So they basically, by approving it as a non-regulated use, said, okay, our concerns are down here in the lower half of the driveway. Once you get up there, you're not regulated, and I was allowed to go forward that way. So it sort of gives me a building envelope up above the hairpin turn in the driveway. And once you get above that, then it's non-regulated because you're far enough from the wetlands. But also they looked at my drainage calculations, and Brian Neff reviewed my calculations and wrote them a letter that it was okay. So what's there now driveway wise is all approved by wetlands. The house itself would have to go back just to make sure that it wasn't getting closer. And that's another problem, is that wetlands is not going to be happy if the house goes closer to wetlands than it is now. Although there is a fair amount of room off the 100-foot setback.
Additional questions?
I don't think I have any. I mean, it makes sense. It's just a question of where we go with it. But obviously it makes sense to build in a less environmentally impacted area. You're going to do a lot of site work and disturb a lot of the trees and stuff, but encroaching into that buffer, that 50 foot is maybe problematic.
Okay, Sue,
Yes?
no questions?
No, I don't actually. Everybody's pretty much covered my questions.
Okay. All right. I am going to entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
We close the public hearing.
second?
I'll second it.
Anyway.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So both public hearings have been closed. And I am just going to go back to the agenda. I'm now going to open the regular meeting and open for new business our discussion of the request for variance at 1055 Washington Woodbury Road. Julie, do we have to read it again?
We do not.
Okay. I'm going to open for discussion among the seated members. Discussion on the application on Washington Woodbury Road.
I have I don't know that we really covered this when we were discussing the application, but I've driven by that house for years, and I just every time I look at it, and I looked at it, drove back and forth a couple of times. It's just it's basically sits right on the road. And so I'm concerned, I have a concern about the safety, of adding to, to that physical property. Just, I mean, cars are like, I know that the applicants, that's why I asked about, the addition is like at least it's a little couple of feet off the road. But it just seems like, a potential, it almost seems like adding a potential hazard, which may, hazard to the life of the people who live in that house, which may or may not be what we're here to review, but I have some concern about it.
Other comments? Thoughts?
I think it's close to I agree, it's very close to the road, and I do share a little bit of the concern about safety, but I'm not sure the addition's gonna affect it that much more than the fact that they're already there. I know what you're saying though. I think we have to really look strongly at the fact that at 25%, they have no ability to add 25% to the rear. So I think we're here because they're coming before us for a hardship. Their expansion is certainly not unreasonable based on what we've seen, the percentages wise. So I mean that's basically the thought with all hardships is what can we present a hardship or did they present a hardship when they brought this forward for that property?
Well, I think they certainly do have the hardship in terms of the topography and then the wetlands, in terms trying to, squeeze in something. But I also think that, I don't know, I think maybe there's some discussion we could have too about the point that Nanette raised, which is the exception to the exception.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think the statute's pretty clear. And I think early on this year, we had a discussion about the present state of the Connecticut law. And I just don't see that this would constitute a hardship. If anything, one of the things that struck me was they do have a deck in the back. So they could certainly add something in the back. It wouldn't make it, the footprint wouldn't totally change. because you can see the structure back there. You know, I mean, maybe they don't want to give up their deck, but you know, they could add, I think she said it was 4 by 20. They could add 80 square feet that would certainly comply with the statute. And I can't see if there's structure there already, how that would, you know, create any problem other than what exists because of the topography. But I think what Nanette said is the case. I mean, you know, we had this discussion earlier this year about the fact that, you know, these people are neighbors, they're in our community, and unfortunately, the law is pretty strict on this stuff.
Nancy?
Well, I think the first thing I'd like to just be clear on is this does not really fall into the code of the 25%, correct? This is just based on our regular code, not the additional 25%, because they're not building behind the house, and it's a lateral increase in their house, so which is not allowed, and so we would just go back to the regular code to decide this. Is that right?
That's,
I'm not sure.
that's
Okay.
my thought.
Okay. Well, that was sort of my understanding too, as I sort of reread it this evening. I share the concerns of safety, but they've lived in that house for a while. It doesn't seem like anyone has run into the front of it. And so by increasing the size of the house laterally, I'm not so sure that anything is going to be less safe. I don't think that I would be interested in increasing 4 feet off of the side of in the back of my house, because it's really not enough to do too much with, I don't think. So I think I would have to say that they really have no other place to go to extend their wishes to improve their home.
But is that a hardship?
Well, it's a hardship because they don't have any place else to build.
But is the cases define hardship? Is it hardship?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is a hardship. What do you, Bill?
Hardships is defined by topography and all sorts of, otherwise, I think basically we're sitting here at ZBA unable to approve anything if it doesn't come off the 25% in the back. So I think we're here to decide ultimately what, if they can't add on there, are they now required to stay in the house at 1,200 square feet or whatever the number is? So I don't know that this house is a very unique house in that it's so close to the road. And it's the size of the house is 1,200 square feet, but I believe that we could consider approving it. I believe we can improve it based on the hardship of the wetlands, the steep topography in the back, and their ability to improve the home. So I think we can consider it. Otherwise, I don't think we're going to be. I think we're at the point now where the ZBA is almost obsolete because we've created this zoning ordinance in Roxbury where we're taking away houses that it's here because they wouldn't be before us if they could add to the 25% in the back. So I don't know. I think maybe we're at a point now where we have to seek counsel on it and then decide where do we go with these lateral builds. I know we've approved a lot of things over the years. I know the statutes have changed over the last 20 years for sure, but I think we have to consider it.
So my thought is that one of the reasons that zoning went with the 25% to the rear was visual. In other words, that yes, there was an increase in the nonconformity, but it wouldn't be seen from the road. And so that was part of their thinking about why you had to go back. And I understand that the applicants can't go back. what I get stuck on is the regulation that Nancy was referring to says no non-conforming building devoted to a conforming use shall be enlarged, extended, reconstructed, or structurally altered on the exterior, except where the result of such change is to reduce or eliminate the nonconformity. So I understand. I understand the argument. I could make the argument if you take the 25% rule out of the conversation, because I kind of think we have to. I understand the argument that there is a hardship because 25% rule or not, you can't build in the back. So that's not an option. Are there other options? I think Steve suggests there is another option where the deck is. It just seems to me that allowing an extension, an addition to a non-conforming property so close to the road is really exactly what it goes up against exactly what this regulation was written for. You know, to allow an addition to a property that basically sits on the road. It does increase the nonconformity. And that's what our charge is to protect against. So I'm sounding a little bit of two minds, because I am a little bit of two minds on this.
I feel of two minds as well. You know, I think both minds, you know, are valid.
If you went by the letter of the law, perhaps it's a reach to approve it, but we also are dealing with something that is, as all houses are in Roxbury, they're all quite unique. I don't know that they're precedent setting, but so I understand the way case law has gone, especially over the last 5 and 10 years. So I think everybody's got to look at it in their own viewpoint. We have established hardships. There is hardships. Hardships are topography, our properties. It's just a question of whether you want to prove something that's 5, 6, 7 feet from the road. I think that's. I won't. So
you're saying that you also, Bill, are saying just let's disregard the whole the whole zoning 25% addition aspect.
Yeah, I think we have. They're here because they can't. That's not applicable to them. That's not.
Right.
I don't. Based on that hardship in the back, that's what I believe. I mean, you can see this how steep it is. I do understand they could add to the deck, and maybe that's something they'll have to consider. If I mean, but that's kind of a shame for us, for a young family to have to sacrifice their deck.
I think there was a problem with the footings on the deck, and
Well, I think construction-wise that could be solved, but basically what would happen is that they would have to add living space there, and they'd have to sacrifice their deck, which if I'm standing on that deck, I can imagine looking at that beautiful stream down there is a pretty nice part of that property. So I am, you know what I'm saying? So, you know.
Right, and plus what they want to do is have them, you know, add a mudroom. I understand, I have an old house too, where you walk in and you're in. There is no mudroom or entry or anything.
Yep.
So I get that that would be an attractive, addition to the house, in addition to making space for another bedroom. And in their app, and somebody asked and was answered that apparently they have a septic that can handle the additional bedroom.
That they went to the health, to the
Right.
Newtown Health District.
They went to Newtown and were approved.
Right.
It's hard to leave your personal feelings out of this.
Well, it certainly would be very visible. It's, you know, it's very like not when it's done, but while it's under construction, it would be very visible. People might, you know, get the idea that you know, we're not, I don't know.
We're not following the letter of the law, basically. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're
Right, where we have, you know, where we have, I mean, I'm all in favor, as we discussed many times amongst ourselves of, you know, of trying to break out of being so beholden to the letter of the law on all of these.
well, at least looking for an avenue to approve something that makes common sense. I mean, we don't want the law, we got to respect the law, and that's what we're going to probably have to do, but possibly in this case, but we have to remember that people have a right to do work on their own property, and does it make sense to do it? Is it a common sense thing? Is it something that should be allowed or shouldn't be allowed? Is it going to affect the village? I mean, of course, we can't say that's what we're up against, but if we're just going to follow the letter of the law, that's a definite can't be approved unless you can prove that they have no other way to add on to their house, which is through hardship in the back, which I believe is a reasonable is sort of a reasonable request. I mean, to add on what amounts to maybe 240 square feet onto a 1,200 foot house, we're not talking about a large encroachment. So certainly in years after many years ago, it was not a big issue. Of course, now case law has proven that it is a bigger issue now. So I guess we'll all have to think about how we want to handle this and just vote with our consciences.
Would someone like to make a motion?
And that,
Yeah, Sue.
yeah, can I just, am I allowed to say something? As
Go
a
ahead.
technically as a non-participant?
Go ahead.
Having grown up in a house that was built in the 1700s, right on the existing road in Fairfield, it is a hardship when you're that close, and it's not their fault that, I mean, the house is where it is because that's what the way they built them in the 1800s in the country, based on weather, winter, that's why the barn is so close. So if you look at that as sort of a hardship in the fact that they aren't deliberately making it close to everything, and they're within this, everything in the whole house is already not in compliance with the existing regulations because of its distance from everything, and the fact that the terrain is, you know, they've got Spring Brook right, not pretty close to the back of the property of the house, I'm sorry. And so if they were to build back, even if they took down their deck and started with good footings or good whatever you would want to put, it would still could potentially in the heavy weather that we certainly have been getting, wouldn't that all impact more, add more of a problem to the books, to the topography of the land and what they're trying to preserve? So, I understand that the regs say it has to be behind the house when was it Billy? You said it's not like it's that big a square footage addition. And it really makes, in a way, more sense so that it doesn't impact the rocky, steep back and the brook as badly, as severely.
I think Bill hit it on the head, which is essentially you look at these people, they're a nice family. They want to enjoy their house and make it more enjoyable. And I guess our job is to say, do you keep the book open and look at what it says, or do you close the book and accommodate them? I mean, it's tough because, you know, it's a small community.
Were there any, there were no letters from any neighbors that are, I'm not sure if there are many neighbors.
No, there were, no, and nobody was present tonight.
Okay.
Do I hear a
If we
motion?
granted- If we granted the variance, we would be increasing the nonconformity.
Right.
Is that true?
By 200 and
40
roughly
some-
240 square feet. I mean, that's sort
30,
of,
right.
that's undeniable. That's undeniable that we are increasing the.
For the meeting, but I'm in mute.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm in mute.
Okay, sorry about that. I'll be quiet when I walk in.
So,
All right.
I'm
sorry.
on mute.
What did you say, Nanette?
I said, that's just, that's clear.
Right.
That it's just a question of whether or not we want to grant a variance from the increase of the nonconformity.
I think I actually believe we need, I myself personally need a little bit of clarity on this, because at the end of the day, now that since we've had this for the last couple of years with the 25% rule, it feels like if they can't get anything in the back, then we almost can't approve anything. So it's almost like we shouldn't really, I mean, we can't, with the inability to even, we're no longer even allowed to trust the hardship of moving the 25% and saying, in the back, we've got major topography issues. We got some probably some issues on the slope, but we can't approve it. And I don't know. I think I would need more to say, is that going to be the case on everything that comes to us? We cannot increase the nonconformity unless we can prove hardship. That's always been the case, and that's still in the statutes, that we still have to prove a hardship. Otherwise, we have no. The ZBA doesn't have a real function, I wouldn't think.
So, okay, so what I think we have is, yes, it increases the nonconformity. And I think we also agree that, yes, there is a hardship.
Right, we know that.
And that the hardship is related to topography. I think
Yeah.
we all agree on that, on those two things. And now it's a question of, what do we do?
Can we
with that?
approve it? Can we approve it? That's the question.
Right.
Within, are we going to open up a can of worms by approving it, or because it's so close to the road, which, I mean,
Right.
let's all be clear too. We have to remember, I mean, everybody buys their property. It's their due diligence to make sure that they can get the things that they want done within good reason. So we have to look at that too. But
Yeah.
in this particular case,
Yeah, I was going to say that's sort of where I get in trouble with the idea of hardship, because you're a buyer, you buy a home, you basically do your due diligence, and I don't think anybody buying this particular home would really say, oh, we could improve, we'll make it bigger, it'll be much better. If we want to do it because they're, just to accommodate people, that's okay. I'm just, I don't think that's within what the law contemplates.
I don't think we would be doing it to accommodate people. I think we would be, if we did it, we would be doing it because we are satisfied that there is a hardship that has to do with topography, which Gail has told us is basically the one remaining
loophole.
loophole, the one remaining justification, let's say. And, and so, so I think, I think it's a balancing issue at this point, and I don't think we should do it to accommodate the homeowners, but I think that in my mind, it's just easier to think about it without the 25% rule and just think about it in terms of this is a non-conforming house on a non-conforming property, and there is a request for a variance.
Right. I totally
Based,
agree.
based on topography.
Well,
Because it
we
can't be
should
built
also-
anywhere else.
I think we also have to look at the applicant application, and what did they say is their hardship?
Well, they basically stated the stream, wetlands, they gave us all the verbal hardships.
Was the hardship the 25% thing?
Yes.
Well,
Didn't
the
we-
wet, they also mentioned the wetlands being an issue of, and the rising stream, and, you know, the concern, I mean, you
No,
want
but
to
we-
take those
but-
things
But
into
but
consideration.
we have to go by what, I'm not yaying or naying, I'm just saying, let me just look at what did they say, and what did they say is their hardship? Are they, in other words, are they applying on the basis of
Karen, let me read it.
percent?
Karen, let me read it.
Oh,
The house
okay.
is non-conforming both in regards to its setback from the property and road and its setback from wetlands. At present, the rear side of the house is approximately 40 feet from the west branch of the spring. I'm just skipping ahead. Given the likelihood of, we are also concerned that completing construction in the rear of the house would be disruptive to the wetlands and we would like to minimize the environmental impact of this addition by building farther from the brook.
Okay.
So it's
It does not.
topography, really. There could be a clearer statement of hardship, but I think that that's what this says.
Mhm.
I still need a motion.
We don't know what we want to say.
Exactly.
This is a toughie.
Well, let me ask a question. Are we going to know any better 10 minutes from now?
Are we what?
Are we going to know any better 10 minutes from now?
Definitely not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably have more questions and make it worse. It's hard.
Well, I can make an initial motion. And then people can tear it down or edit it. But maybe we just need to get started. Okay, so I would make a motion that we approve the request for a variance to increase the nonconformity of their house due to the encroaching topography, problems with their topography, and therefore not being able to extend their house in any other direction. So you can take that as a rough draft and go with it.
Julie, do you have that?
I have parts of it. I have approved the request to variance to increase the nonconformity due to the encroaching topography problems of not being able to extend the house in any other direction.
Is there a second?
I'll
I
second.
think that's pretty rough, don't you think?
Well, we have to get a motion on the table. So Bill
Oh.
seconds it.
I second it.
Discussion.
I would love to approve this, but I don't think, well, it's a 256 square. Um,
240. I think it's 8 by
8 by 16.
30.
I think so. Oh, I think they said, oh, is it 8 by 16 and 8 by 30?
I think it's 8 by 30.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, anyway, so it's bigger. Yeah. Addition to the nonconformity right on the road. I mean, which is what we all know, you know.
Okay, we're gonna have to make a decision.
All right, so let's,
So,
everybody put their vote in. It's okay. We
so
respectfully disagree.
I would think that the motion that we adopt should not specifically say we're increasing the nonconformity. I think I think what we're doing is we're voting to, the motion is to approve the request for a variance based on
The hardship.
the hardship of topography.
I would
But
say,
we're going to have to go around again afterwards and state our reasons for voting yes or no. So, Nancy, would you withdraw your motion?
Sure, I withdraw my motion.
Okay. And do you want to restate it? Do you want me to restate it?
You can restate it. You're better at this than I am.
No. A motion to approve the request for a variance on, I'm just looking for the appropriate information here, of Ann Fenton and Jeffrey Sharp at 1055 Washington Woodbury Road, to add an addition to the house
Of a specific size.
a 240 square foot addition to the house, based on the hardship of topography preventing the addition elsewhere on the property.
rear of the property.
Mhm.
Did we explore, was it possible to go in any other direction, like south or north or?
Well, you can't go to the road, and the other would be the
Right.
same issue if you went on the other side.
I mean, there's only one other way to go, and as Steve said, we would have all the same issues.
Right, okay.
Julie, could you read that?
To approve the request for a variance for Ann Fenton and Jeffrey Sharp, 1055 Washington Woodbury Road, to add an addition of 240 square feet to the house based on the hardship of topography. And then I lost it at being unable to go anywhere else.
Build
Is that correct?
or construct.
Construct.
Being unable to construct anywhere else.
I think we should make sure we got the correct square footage.
Right. So, yeah, so did the applicants do that square footage based on the other rule?
It's 8 by 16.
It's 8 by 16.
That's what I'm reading from the application.
Oh, okay. I thought they said 8 by I guess, oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry.
It's
I
two
was
stories.
wrong. 8 by
Oh.
16 is really nothing.
It's 128 square feet.
Yeah.
The
Two
upstairs
stories.
was a little
But
smaller.
Sorry, the two of you must be dying to talk, and we apologize. It's 8 by 16.
So upstairs and downstairs, that's 256 square feet.
Right.
And maybe there's some little porch thing that sticks out. I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay, so motion, so are we gonna second it? We're.
Is there a second to the motion?
I got,
Um,
Do we
Bill
want-
seconds, right?
Can we hear the motion again? Julie, please.
To approve the request for variance for Ann Fenton and Jeffrey Sharp at 1055 Washington Woodbury Road to add is it 256 or 240? What have you decided on?
No, it's 8 by 16, which is 120.
256.
Okay, to add 256 square feet addition to the house based on the hardship of topography and being unable to construct anywhere else.
It's 8 by 16. That's how much?
It's 2 stories, Nancy.
Oh, okay. I knew that, but you have to double it.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, the variance goes with the land, so I think in terms of the language, we don't need to use the owner's names, just the address of the property.
Okay, is there more discussion?
I have a question. This is probably ZBA 101. The footprint is what? Is the footprint just the first floor?
yes. The footprint's the first floor.
Okay, and so when you're determining the square footage,
Square footage of the house includes the
Both-
first
okay,
floor
both
and the
floors.
second floor.
Right.
If we
Right.
want to give them approval to expand on both floors, we have to put the full square footage in.
Correct.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, more discussion? I'm gonna call for a vote. Steve,
I vote in favor of the motion.
Nancy,
I vote in favor.
Karen,
I vote in favor.
Bill,
I vote in favor.
I vote in favor. So now the hard work is behind us. We need to just go around one more time and say the reason. No, wait, Gail told me that we need to do this differently. We need to state, and we did that in the motion, that the primary reason is topography.
Right.
Is that, and do we all agree?
Yeah.
That's our
Yes.
reason?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Congratulations, the two of you. And Julie will be in touch you're back. Julie will be in touch on the details of next steps.
Thank you.
But you do need to go to wetlands.
Of course.
Okay. All right.
Good luck.
Good
Yeah.
luck.
Good luck.
Okay, moving on now to discussion of the application on East Flag Swamp Road. Discussion.
I would say that it seems to me this is a very different type of case and maybe touches me a different way, but this is a person who is commercializing a piece of land that he bought. And what I hear in the testimony at the hearing is that it probably would make a better selling house because it wouldn't look like a ski house, and might cost less to grade, et cetera. And therefore, to me, that doesn't constitute a hardship. It's, the gentleman has different options, and I'm sure his option might be in commercializing the property a better option, but I don't think that's the basis for a variance. In fact, there's some very specific Connecticut cases on that.
Other?
Yeah, I have a thought about it, kind of a variation on Steve's theme, which is, since the house isn't built, doesn't exist, the applicant has the option of building something that
Conforms.
conforms, right, that doesn't require a variance.
Nancy?
I don't know what's all involved in the piece of property, to be quite honest, and what it would take to build a house on that piece of property. So it's really hard for me to, I can't really comment on this. I don't have enough information or knowledge about the land and, you know, what it would take to level the land to build the house in a conforming area. I don't know what's entailed, and if it's possible, or if it's running into wetlands, or, you know, I just don't know.
Okay. Bill?
From a site work perspective, it makes 100% sense to put the house there. I think it's just difficult only because we could be opening up a big can of worms on any site work, right? To suggest that we can put a house anywhere on a lot that's not the best lot. You know, that's our issue. You know, I think, you know, Charlie's a great builder, and it'd be better to where he's going to build it. It'd be better for the environment, better for everybody else. It's a better choice. It's just a better site. I can just see looking at it. It's going to have less walls, less structure. But I think, you know, it's going to be difficult to approve based on the fact that we'd have to, now anybody that built on a site would end up having the option of possibly moving it closer to the sideline. It's kind of a shame that that's the way it looks, but the topography there looks very challenging. It looks like it's, you know, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a better environmental fit to do what he's going to do than it will be, especially given the fact that it's close to the Connecticut property. But, you know, like we said, you know, it's tough when you're doing a build. You know, you're not living on a older house,
Right.
but like I say, it makes it's a shame too, because the lot would be a lot nicer if there was a way to make it work so it was just that one individual case. Because, you know, you can see on the lot itself the environmental impact there'll be steep walls, there'll be steep slopes. It won't be as nice a lot. It won't look as good, and it won't be as good environmentally because it'll probably be closer to the wetlands. But for us to approve it, it's going to be a challenge.
I agree with what everybody else has said, and particularly I think Bill's summation. I'm reluctant to create a non-conforming property on a piece of land where a house doesn't exist.
Right.
I mean, it feels like that goes exactly against what we're supposed to be doing. So for all the reasons of why this makes good sense in the real world, I agree, but I just think, I think it's exactly opposite of what our role is since the house does not, as Bill said, the house doesn't exist yet. And so I feel like I can't support it for that reason.
Right. Well, it was very informative, instructive to me when Charlie described that it was like a housing development in the 80s that somebody put in, a builder put in the 80s. Because when I drove in there, I thought, geez, every single house in here, is wedged in to a ledge. That's how they did it, that all those lots are like that. So yeah, I think it would be, I don't know that it's within our jurisdiction to pre-approve, something that, a lot, even though it probably, as has been it would be the kind of construction that's there now. And the fact, I guess, and I don't know, like, does it matter to, that it's the state of Connecticut is holding that land in conservation in the back? Do they have anything to say about people coming closer to them?
If they had anything to say, tonight was their time to say it. And, that's why I was trying to make sure that they had received notice, because this was, this was their moment. And, we didn't hear from them. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion? Now, this one should not be so difficult, since I think we're in agreement.
Well, I had to make one. I did my one the last time, so someone else gets a turn.
I'll take a stab at it. I make a motion that we not approve the request for the variance for the address.
177.
77 East Flagstaff Road.
Based on the fact that there is no, that the property is empty, and that
there's a conforming way for him to build a house.
Okay, yeah, that there are multiple possibilities, or that there are numerous possibilities to build on the property variance.
Okay. Julie, where'd you go? Oh, there you are.
Here I am. I'm finishing. All right, the last few words, and I'll read it back. To disapprove application for variance for 177 East Flag Swamp Road based on the fact that there are other possible ways to build on the property. Or do you want to put other possible conforming ways?
There are ways to build on the property that did not create a nonconformity.
Right.
Okay. That do not create a nonconformity. Okay.
Yeah.
Correct.
Or that do not require a variance.
Right.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
it's more to
And
To disapprove the application for variance for 177 East Flag Swamp Road based on the fact that there are other possible ways to build on the property that do not create a nonconformity and will not require a variance.
What's-
Fine.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. Is there further discussion? Okay. Let's just go around.
Do you have a
So,
second?
oh, do we have a second?
I will second it.
Steve seconds it. Okay. So because of the way the motion is written, if you want to deny the variance, you have to vote yes. Got it?
If you want to deny, the variance,
The
Yeah, but-
motion says what you want. The motion sation to
we
deny.
want to
the variance.
deny.
So,
All right, so
so
why don't we write it? Why don't we write, to deny the request for a variance? Why
Well,
don't-
you're-
you still have to vote. You still have
You're voting to disapprove. It's either a yay or a nay.
Right, and what I'm saying is if you want to approve the motion, which is to deny the variance,
Right,
you have to say yes, even though it's deny.
right. Oh,
Correct.
okay, yeah. We're voting on whether you agree or disagree with the motion. And if you.
Exactly. Thank you, Nancy. Correct. Okay. Why don't you start, Nancy?
Oh,
No, just say, we're just voting.
I know. It's a hard one because I know Charlie. He built our
Okay,
house.
Karen,
What?
we're gonna come back to you. Karen?
Do I say yes or no? Yes. Yes.
Yes, you agree with the
Yes.
motion.
Yes, I
Yes.
agree. with
Bill?
Yes, I reluctantly agree with her motion, knowing that it's going to be a worse property because we have to do this.
Steve?
Yes, same reason.
Nancy?
I reluctantly agree with the motion like Bill.
I say yes. Okay, and the board's, Julie, the board's rationale is contained in the motion,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay. So moving on, thank you, everybody. That was, we got through those two in really good time. And as a reward to you, we are going to have another application next month. Julie's waiting for an application. So we have three items of business. One is to approve the minutes from April. The second is to approve the schedule, and the third is to elect an officer for next year. But since it's 9:30, since we are going to have a meeting next month, if you would like, we can put these three business matters off, or we can just take care of them now.
I vote that we approve the minutes. I mean, I make a
Okay.
motion that we approve
that-
the minutes.
I vote that we approve the minutes and the schedule for next
No,
year.
one at a, Nancy, we have to do them one at a time.
Oh, okay.
So Karen moved to approve the minutes.
Okay.
I vote to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Okay, the second is the schedule, and I would like to propose one change to the schedule, which is we have this, we've always started at 7:30. In part, that was because our dear friend Margaret was working, but she's not working anymore. So I'm assuming Margaret, 7 would be okay for you. And I would say, let's start our meetings next year at 7 rather than 7:30.
I second.
Okay, so other than that, a motion to approve the
Or
schedule.
actually, well, Bill, can you make that?
Yeah, I can make it. Yep.
Oh,
Nancy?
Bill, I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking of you. Would you rather leave it at 7:30?
I can move it to 7. It's okay.
You
I can get
sure?
that. Positive, yeah, I can get it done, yep. I will probably be zooming all year anyway, so I can probably zoom work. It's all good. That's good. No
Okay.
problem.
I'm sorry. I should have thought about
Nah,
that.
no, that's all right. No worries.
Actually, that's a great change though, I think.
Okay, we have a second.
I'll second.
Second,
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we need to elect a chair. And we eliminated this year the vice chair because nobody wanted to do it. So can we just go ahead and elect a chair for next year, and then we can talk next year about whether we want to reinstitute the vice chair role?
Is the floor open for nominations?
It is.
Oh, well, I'd like to nominate Nanette Falkenberg.
I'll second it.
I accept.
All right, we're good.
All in
Okay.
favor?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye. Oh, no, I didn't vote. Okay, so I guess we're done.
All right, we're
Can
done.
you make a motion to adjourn?
I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Margaret, feel better.
Yeah,
night, all.
Margaret, we hope to that by the next meeting, you're going to be joining us more fully.
Yes.
I think Margaret's gone.
I think she's gone. Okay, good night, everyone.
All right, good
All
night.
right, be well.
Aye.
Take care. Yep, we'll see you.
So that was like a 50% happy meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.